Hi, welcome to Tea, Cake and Conversation. I'm joined by my good friend Lena Heggelund, and we are here in Norway. And as you can tell, it's not the warmest climate that I've been in.
Not the coldest either.
Not the coldest either, okay. But we are here in beautiful Norway. Lena and I met several years ago on a spiritual course. And the one thing I quickly discovered about Lena is her love and her passion of horses and working with horses, and for humans to learn to understand horses better and become more in line with the horses. And for me, and talking with Lena, I have learned so much about horses and humans' connection to them, but also picking Lena's brains, I find more and more information that comes about, not just about horses, but on other things. We've shared a great deal of good conversations.
Quantum physics.
Stop. Lots of tea.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Lots of tea. I've got a little bit of cake left because I'm hungry. But so many conversations. And today our conversation really, I want to talk with you, share a conversation about iron-free horses.
Iron-free horses.
Iron-free horses.
Yes.
Lena has a herd of 7 horses here. And on your farm, your horses are kept outside 365 days a year in an open stable, so they have shelter when they need. They're healthy, they're very happy and content. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that you are passionate about is iron-free horses. So can you please explain to me what that is?
Iron-free horses have no shoes, and we don't use any bits when we ride.
Okay, so the bit thing. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up and learning to ride horses, bits were essential for controlling the horse. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that. How do you control, guide? Because I know controlling horses with you, that doesn't work. So tell me, explain how you can ride a horse without a bit in its mouth.
How you can ride a horse without brakes is what people ask me.
Ah, okay. I didn't ask you that.
No, but you're not the ordinary person either. So, but the brake is not in their mouth. Mm-hmm. That iron that they put in the bit it's called, and it's on top of a bone just covered with a layer of skin. Yeah. It's very sensitive. Mm-hmm. And that piece of equipment will cause pain, right? Okay. And I must say, I am not like a fanatic. No. I understand people that use bits, and it's always about the hands that holds the reins, right? Okay. But when you're out riding, and if that horse will be startled, your natural reaction would be to go into some kind of fetal position, mm-hmm. and you will pull the reins, right? You will cause pain.
Hurts the horse.
That hurts the horse. And when you ride bitless, it's the same principle, mm-hmm. but instead of pulling in the mouth, you apply pressure on the side of the head, right? Okay. Because the reins are crossed underneath the chin. Yeah. So when you steer the horse mm-hmm. with your hands, it has to be in combination with your seat and your legs, and it's all coordinated, right? But it doesn't cause any pain for the horse when you ride without bit. And for unexperienced riders, yeah, some hold on to the reins and they support themselves on the reins mm-hmm. Before they have the appropriate balance.
So that causes pain for the horse. So then we've spoken, we talk about the cooperation that needs to exist between horse and rider. Mm-hmm. So if you're pulling on the bit causing pain, am I right to think that makes a horse less willing to cooperate with you?
Well, to me, it is about what we spoke about in the previous episode.
Yeah.
That how I will not intentionally cause pain for the horse, right? And the whole thing about this iron-free horses that we have is it's one thing usually leads to another, right?
Okay.
And it started with taking off the shoes of the horse.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was a traditional horse person. I had shoes on my horse. I used bit because that's how it's always been done. I didn't ask any questions about it. You know, that's just how it is, right? That's what we've been told. That's how it is. But where I used to have the horses when we lived in Bergen, there was this lady. She came with a horse that was 19 years old, and she had decided that he would be without shoes, right? And he was sore-footed, and I was one of the people that were kind of thinking that she was being mean to her horse, since he had shoes on his whole life. And all of a sudden, when he was 19, she would take him off, and I thought he couldn't handle it, right? But she insisted that it was through a transition until his feet got used to being in contact with the ground. And she was willing to lend me books about it. And when this Hooft trimmer came, she invited me over to see what he was doing, and he would explain to me how this works. And I got interested. And eventually this old horse that had shoes on his whole life could walk on gravel, could walk on concrete, asphalt, anything without being sore-footed. And I thought, I'll try that. I'll try that with my horse.
Right.
And I did. And it worked, right? And so I got interested and I started reading. And then this term, iron-free, came about and was like, you don't need bit in the mouth. I was skeptic because it's the brakes, I thought, right? But I did it anyway, and it worked perfectly, you know? And so none of our horses have bits, and sometimes we rehabilitate racetrack horses that always had bits in their mouth, and they're very hard. So, you know, they don't respond well because they got used to being pulled in the mouth. But when we have new horses come to our place, we let them settle in, and it takes as long as it needs. Sometimes weeks, sometimes months. We just, you know, gradually let them into the herd and
find their place.
And when we see that they're calm, and then we're ready to start working with them. And I put on a bitless bridle the first time I get on. And they seem to be a bit confused at first, but then they respond so well. So it is safe, I would say.
Well, you're not going to put yourself in a position where you're unsafe.
No, I'm 50. My bones are getting brittle.
You don't bounce anymore.
No, I don't want to fall off and break anything. But the more you learn, the more interested you are in learning more, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and we had horses that have been born here. We start riding them, and we always start by being gentle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes time. You have to have patience, and you have to let go of your ego, and you have to let go of all your agendas, you know, because the horses have their own.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have patience, and if you want to build a relationship based on mutual trust and respect, you don't want to cause them any pain, you do want it to be safe. So
that's why, for me, when the first time that I came here and was on the back of one of your beautiful horses, it, for me, we'll say that, you know, bitless bridle came out, and I'm on the back of Nero, you know, the dude of the herd,
the man,
and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's just me on top of this big animal, and the brakes, I don't have any. But I know that he's used to it. He's such a wonderful creature, but But for me, riding bitless, there was more of a synergy that happened between the horse and the rider.
Yeah. Because the brakes are not in their mouth. You
No.
ride with your seat, with your legs, and with your mind, right?
Yeah.
So when you learn to trust yourself,
Yeah.
and you learn to trust the relationship that you built with your horse,
Yeah.
you can even ride without a head stall or anything. You
Yeah.
know? You can see people ride with just a cord around
The
their neck.
of the horse.
Yes, because they have built a very solid relationship, and the horse will respond to the slightest of cues, from the shift of your weight and
Yeah.
even the way you turn your head, right? Horses are extremely sensitive animals.
Which is a conversation, I think, for another time.
Oh yeah, my favorite topic.
Yeah.
The super sensitive horse. It's a perfect blend of sensitivity and raw muscle power, horsepower, right? Yeah.
So for you, with the iron-free approach on their feet here, on their hooves, you also maintain them, don't you? You've learned how to maintain their hooves.
That is right. And I have to say one thing about having no shoes on the feet of the horse is that you cannot just take off the shoes and not do anything about their environment, because they have to be able to move across like gravel and all kinds of surfaces in order for their feet to be accustomed to this. And the diet, you don't want to feed them large amounts of grains, because it weakens the hoof.
I didn't know that.
And there are many things that you need to think about before you rip the shoes off.
Yeah.
And sometimes horses will be sore-footed in a transition period, but there are there are boots that you can put on, like rubber boots.
Rubber, like silicone.
Yes.
Yeah.
To keep them from being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't want to. You don't want them to be uncomfortable.
They literally have to. They have to find their feet. Literally.
Yes.
Again, I guess.
And cowboys, they say that a horse has 5 hearts, right? They have their heart
And in their feet.
and one in each foot, and it sends a lot of messages to the horse about the terrain they're walking on, and so they can adjust, right? But when you have a fixed iron shoe, that hoof is not going to flex.
No.
And what would happen to you if you suddenly decided you would have like metal plates under your feet?
Well, I
Would it be painful?
now live in the country of clogs, right? I now live in Netherlands, and to put clogs on your feet, they don't give, they don't move. So you've got to walk a whole different way.
Yes.
So
but think of your spine.
Spine, yeah. Hips.
If you would walk on something metal, right?
Yeah.
That would send like when you step and it doesn't give
Jolts.
yes, up your legs and eventually up to your spine. It causes havoc on the body.
Yeah.
That is, I don't understand how that's not something that's so obvious.
But it's because, as we've said already, that people just do things because it's always been done. But there is a movement now for iron-free horses. There are more and more people that are, I believe,
Yes.
that are choosing to become horse owners that are iron-free.
And another thing is the economy. In our country, you will have to pay somewhere between 100 and 120 euros every 6 weeks to have your horses.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money, and sometimes people let it's not 6 weeks, maybe in 2 months, and that hoof will have grown too far out, right? Which I can't say what I was supposed to say.
No.
It messes up the whole way that horse will move, because the hoofs are too long, right? And it is not difficult to maintain the horse's feet, and I believe that everyone that owns horses should be able to control and see the condition of their horse's feet. so many people pay good money for shitty work, right?
Right.
And you can have professionals to come and trim your horse's feet because it is tough on your back.
Yeah.
Right. But then during summer, when they move on top of this hill, it's lava rock.
Yeah.
It's abrasive.
Yeah.
So they will pretty much maintain their own hoofs. We go in and correct if maybe it's a little bit long in the toe or high in the heel. So we go and we just adjust just a little bit. You know, you leave a lot.
Yeah.
And
less is more.
Less is more. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I must tell you the story about why we have iron shoes on the horses in the first place. You know? And that is in the medieval times when the cavalry had their horses sitting up in the castles.
Yeah.
And they would stand there for days in their own feces and urine, and the hoofs would rot. So a smart person came up with the idea to put iron on to protect their hoofs.
And that's where it's come from.
And then they came riding down the hill, gloppity-glop.
Yeah, they make lots of noise.
Yes, and the farmer would say, "Oh, look at the kings, man! They have like iron. That's probably a good idea." So we would do it too, right? And it's been done ever since.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on iron-free horses and educating us. I had no idea that's where the tradition, if you like, of putting iron shoes on your beloved horse came from. But it's interesting, and I thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
You're welcome.
So thank you very much for tuning in to Tea, Cake and Conversation about iron-free horses. Please do feel free to subscribe to, what's it called?
Tea, cake and conversation.
Yeah. And look forward to joining us on the next segment. Thank you for being with us.